10 times the Power Rangers actually changed something using time travel, and this last one is really gonna pickle your melon. So obviously, Time Force, I mean, it's in the name, but not all of them are Time Force, I promise. Mr. Cullens, father of Red Time Force Ranger Wes Cullens, is saved by Alex Drake in the year 2001, even though Alex specifically admits to Wes that he is meant to die according to the history books. Now, this one is particularly interesting to me because Mr. Cullens is injured by Rancic, the mutant who came back from the future to change it. So, would he, in the original timeline, have been injured in some sort of car accident? Or is Alex simply fixing Time Force's mistakes by correcting what Rancic changed in the past? And on the subject of Time Force correcting its mistakes, not an official entry, but I just have to bring up as like 1.5. Did Alex die? So Alex dies in the year 3001 in the arms of his fiancée Jen Scott, who then takes the powers, goes back to the year 2001 to chase down his killer, and inevitably save the timeline and all that jazz. However, he comes back halfway through the season, and my wondering is, did he not die here and he was actually just in critical condition? Or did the Rangers going into the past to pursue his killer change the future and alter the event that was the inspiration for their time travel in the first place? This event would get higher ranks, but I'm not actually sure if it's time alteration or simply mind games. In Jungle Fury, Carnosaur, one of the three masters who teaches Dai-Shi, goes into Jarrod's past, the person Dai-Shi is possessing, and changes all of the positive events that made him a good person into negative events that make him a more evil person. And I'm really not sure if this is all just happening in Jarrod's head or if Carnosaur has actually altered the timeline. I'm sorry, you all have to learn to share. There have been a number of instances where a Power Ranger went back in time to gather what they needed to become a Ranger in the future, starting with the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers Zeo quest, where all of the previous Mighty Morphin Power Rangers travel back in time to find their Zeo crystal. Then in Power Rangers Ninja Storm, Cam Watanabe, the Green Samurai Ranger, travels back in time and meets his mother, who gives him a Morpher necklace. Why he couldn't have just gotten this from his father like 20 years in the future, I'm not really sure. I guess it's more meaningful that she gives it directly to him. And then in Power Rangers Ninja Steel, Sarah, in a Christmas special, uses Santa's sleigh to travel back in time and get morphers from her friends so they will be able to use their previously lost powers for a final Christmas special at the end of season 1. And then she gives them all back. It's very end game, except there's no ass like that in Ninja Steel. In Power Rangers SPD, the 6th individual with superhuman abilities, Sam, even though that plotline really doesn't make sense to me because I was under the impression the SPD Rangers' parents were all exposed to radiation and then gave birth shortly after, which caused their children to have superhuman abilities. Sam is much younger, so wouldn't it have worn off at that point in time? It doesn't matter. He's there. He goes back in time as the Omega Ranger to help his friends defeat Emperor Grum. And that's under the assumption they wouldn't have been able to do it without him, but it brings up an interesting point because the Blue Centurion actually travels back in time to warn the Turbo Rangers about the Alliance of Evil, who are the main villains in Space under the guiding hand of Dark Spectre. However, when the final battle in Space takes place, the Blue Centurion would have just died on some alien planet with the Phantom Ranger if it hadn't been for the individual acts of sacrifice committed by Zordon and Andros. So I don't think that his time travel actually changed anything. It was kind of pointless. Wes Cullens, the Red Time Force Ranger and one of my favorite Rangers, originally lives as a rich man, then dies as a Power Ranger, then lives as a Silver Guardian. They change his life story twice using time travel, which is like crazy. We're getting into melon pickling territory because when the mutants travel back in time 1,000 years, followed by the Rangers, they create the Silver Guardians. The Silver Guardians would not exist if they didn't have someone to fight and someone to compete against. And one wonders, What is the origin of Time Force, the agency? A lot of people say they must be 1,000 years in the future, a version of where SPD evolves to. And as we see from the design, SPD, the A Squad, have Power Rangers in space helmets. The teams that were active in the early 2000s when SPD was forged were the Silver Guardians and the In Space team. So did those two come together to create SPD that would then go on to become Time Force 1,000 years later? Meaning that Time Force, by going back in time to chase Ransik, created themselves. We find an incredibly generic time travel story in Time Force's The Ghost of the Clock Tower, a one-off episode featuring Katie Walker, who you can only kind of see in the edge of these photos, because the episode is mainly about Walter Brown, the ghost of the clock tower, and Katie going back to help him with his confidence and correcting his love story. At the beginning of the story, she sees a portrait of the man who cared for the clock tower, Walter, alone, and then at the end of the story, she sees that she has in fact changed the timeline by seeing the same portrait, only this time it's Walter and his beloved wife. In Lightspeed Rescue's Yesterday Again, Carter is given a new little spaceship to play with, only to not arrive in time to save his team. Then the speed of the ship, or I don't know, some kind of techno something, causes him to go through a wormhole and relive the same day. The most gratifying scene being where he has previously seen Katie run into this server and spill food, and the second time he stops it from happening. It's pretty much just a classic Groundhog Day, relive it, notice the differences, correct your mistakes. Where did it go? In the season finale of Dino Charge, all the Rangers travel back in time to fight Sledge during the era of the dinosaur. Originally, Sledge's ship crashing unleashed a bunch of meteors on the planet's surface, which caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. So, in going back and defeating him before that could happen, they create a new future in which dinosaurs exist alongside mankind. Many people will tell you this is the event that made Dino Charge an alternate dimension. However, I would like to argue it started out as an alternate dimension because we see the extinction of the dinosaurs in the Dino Charge universe by meteor. And then in Dino Fury, we see the presumed extinction of the dinosaurs caused by the Ultrazord of the Dino Fury Rangers overheating, exploding, and taking out everything on the Earth's surface. These two events are completely different, and they were completely different before the Dino Charge Rangers averted this crisis. And a lot of people will bring up Dino Thunder. Dr. O mentions that he found the dino gems in the meteor that crash landed and caused the extinction of all the dinosaurs. But I think that could easily be him misconstruing history based on popular scientific opinion without actually knowing that that was just a random meteor and it was an Ultrazord that caused the dinosaurs' extinction. Am I rambling? Maybe. Alright, we found our way to the part that's really gonna get ya. When Aisha and Tanya switch places in the Zeo quest back in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, Zordon's words are, "Your decision to remain has altered the course of your family's history, and you will find they have joined you when the world has returned to the future." Now, this was a way to let the audience know they weren't going to be high schoolers living alone in a foreign country. However, what that means is they switched places almost a decade ago. So in Mighty Morphin Season 2, when Rocky, Adam, and Aisha come to Angel Grove from Stone Canyon for the Ninja Quest, Aisha is living in Africa. So Tanya is the person who came with them. The implications of this very poorly executed plot in Zeo are that Aisha was never the Yellow Power Ranger. Tanya was. But rest assured that the people who matter do remember Aisha's time in an alternate reality as the Yellow Ranger because the power protected them. We see at the end of the Zeo quest in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, they check back in on Aisha to make sure she made it through the time correction all right. They all still remember, and she even specifically says, "With my knowledge as a veterinarian and a Power Ranger, I will be able to help here in Africa." So she knows she's going to remember all of her friends and all of the things they did in this alternate timeline. So all of these characters from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers remember two timelines, one in which Tanya was the Yellow Ranger and one in which Aisha was the Yellow Ranger. Honestly, I think that's how Adam is able to recruit Aisha into the SPA Rangers in the Once and Always Netflix special, because he remembers his time with her as a ranger and knows that she has what it takes to be a part of this organization. So those are my 10 times the Power Rangers changed something using time travel. I'm going to leave this last one just as a thought provoker. Tom Oliver, an evil clone of Tommy Oliver from a 3-part special called Return of the Green Ranger, ends up turning good and then staying in the 1800s. And one does wonder, is that Tommy's ancestor? We all know Tommy moved to Angel Grove from nearby, so is a clone of him his ancestor? Is Tommy his own ancestor? Please leave your opinions on this in the comments below. I would love to know what you think. What would you change if you could go back in time? Personally, I'm tired of living through the second Nazi regime. As my Red Ranger, Big Bang Mike, said, the Republicans are fascists. And that's not a dig, just based off of their politics, that's the correct term. There are literal Nazis in the White House. And we have concentration camps in our country where we are sending immigrants and citizens alike. Deportation is when you send someone who came into the country illegally back to their home, legally and respectfully. Masked individuals kidnapping people and shipping them off without due process to another country to die in prison camps is not deportation. It's honestly closer to human trafficking. Most of all, I'm sick of people saying, why'd you have to talk about politics? Politics would be something like what I think our taxes should be focused on, roads or schools. This is not politics. It's basic human rights. Stay safe out there, and may the power protect you.